Hey, welcome back to Monstar Gaming. I'm still waiting to go to the next age, but that's okay. Still plenty of stuff to do. I've been looking at the university and the library and also the armory to see what other things I can work on. And that's the really fun thing about this game, that even though, you might have all your workers occupied, there's still so much stuff you can do. I mean, you can still raid other bases. You can still, so let's go over a couple things here. So let's go to the armory. So obviously I can still upgrade it. I still have so much work to do, but I really want to go to the next stage and unlock some of the new cool things. But all right. So if you go to research, let's say you have no workers, right? So you're like, I can't upgrade. There's not much I could do. Yes, there is. There's always going to be troops in here that you're going to be able to level up. Those don't require workers whatsoever. Tactics, I think I'm already maxed at that point. Then there's generals. Generals is one area that I have not paid a lot of attention to, and actually I've been checking out a lot of stuff online, but they don't really become super useful until you get them around level 20 when they turn into those tanks. Then you get MacArthur, Churchill, those things like that. So I'm probably not using these guys to their potential. But the other thing I noticed about these guys is that they recommend only using maybe 3 or 4 and leveling those up a lot, and then use the other ones either for fodder or for the what is it called, for the shipyard, the dock, to do things like that. So I think they were saying that Alexander was really good. Napoleon's usually a pretty good one. Joan of Arc is good, and then Hannibal, obviously, once you get him. Joan is pretty good too, but you got to level him up. So I'm actually gonna work on. Let's see. Actually, Alexander, we need to get that guy up. So that's gonna take 2 days, which is fine. Like I said, I don't use the generals super effectively. I do like to use them. They do work, but they're usually not part of my main battle strategy. But I think this is a reason, because these guys are pretty low level. Um, they're not doing anything super exciting at this point. I did unlock the second spot down here, which is awesome that the game did that. So now you can train 2 things at the same time. Don't have more income to do anything with that. Whoops. Then obviously you have the factory, which is all leveled up, and then my aircrafts are all leveled up. So this is something that you could work on where you don't need any workers at all. The other one that's super cool, and you already know what it is, which is the library. The library does not require any people to do research. But check this out. There was a recent update, I think it was like 5 days ago, where now it looks like this. And when I opened the game and I saw this, I'm like, holy crap, this is awesome. So it looks like they're expanding, which is really good. And it doesn't look like this is. Actually, I'm going to click on this. Requires completed bookcase. Okay. So I guess you can call this additional end game content. So it's for people that are, super leveled up in the game, have completed tons of stuff. Now it gives you a little bit further to go. Completed bookcase. Perfect. And you can see these ones have 40 chapters versus the first one has 320 chapters. And then I did unlock the second one so I can work on 2 things at the same time. So this, Through the Ages, is the library that you start out with. So once I click in there, you can see all the little levels here. I still have a lot of more to do. What is it, 15? I think it maxes out at. Whew. Yeah, I mean, I'm what, like almost halfway? Yeah, right around halfway, if not further. So this is another thing that I've been looking at. Once you get to where I am in the atomic age and beyond, the food and gold actually adds up pretty quickly. Once you start doing a lot of library, you do start doing some of the university, some of the other things, level up your farms, which I've been doing, leveling up my farms and my storage so I can go into the next age. Um, Sorry, that was for the gold. My food is one of the next things that I need to work on. As you can see, my max is only 9.7K. and a lot of things are really starting to creep up there. That's another thing with my barracks. I need to get those up. That'll give me 5 more slots per, which is exciting. Um, and I am still debating on who I'm going to switch for my nation. Um, Actually, let me see if it lets me click on any more of these. Because I keep changing my mind. Now I'm thinking I might go to Romans to use the extra troops. Because I don't use tanks all that much. And one other thing to know about. Oh, that's really cool. Okay, cool. So this is more museum based, things like that. Okay. There's 2 levels. Cool, cool. I'm going to check the other one just to see what it looks like. Parliament. Coalition. So this is more on World War type stuff. Cool. Yeah, so in the end game, you'd probably be messing around with those 2 things a lot more too. Um, what was I gonna say? There's still so much for me to do. I haven't really messed around with the dock that much. It's only level 4. I'm not sending anybody anywhere with that because I need my workers. Um, cool. Welcome back, buddy. Um, definitely request troops because we will help you for sure. What was I gonna say? Where was I going with this? Oh, the nations. I wanted to talk about the nations a little bit because I kind of wanted to do an update, just real quick on that. Let me see. It's not going to let me because I'm in the middle of a revolution, but it's really tough to kind of put all the nations in a tier list because it really depends on where you are in the game. At the beginning of the game, things move super slow. So the Chinese are usually like a pretty good choice because they give you an extra worker. And trust me, in the beginning, you definitely want that extra worker to be able to help you build up quickly. The Greek are also pretty good in the first part of the game because of the reduced cost, I think, on upgrades, or you get refunded. I'm trying to think what else. And I think the troops train faster, or that might be the French. I might be confusing them. But either way, the Greeks are very good at the beginning. The Japanese are actually very good too because they have the town center that shoots out, and then they have the samurai or what turns into the samurai. So it's one of the best infantry in the game. And at the beginning, nothing's worth like a lot of XP, so you can really swarm a ton of bases with those. Um, I would say right in the middle, right when you get past Gunpowder Age, Enlightenment Age, that whole area there, that's where a lot of people do switch, and that's where you would switch maybe to the French to get their tanks, because once they migrate the horses or the cavalry to tanks, really makes a big difference. So you have that. A lot of people will switch to the Romans because now you can have a lot more troops and you'll have better troops to use at that point. So you'll be able to do a lot more with that. I'm going to request some troops here. Um, then the other one that's very good at the beginning, but it actually becomes better in the second part of the game there, Enlightenment Age and that whole area over there is the British because they have the archers that shoot. Silos haven't don't exist yet, missile silos, so you'll be able to get a lot of loot. The Chinese are still decent. They're well rounded, but they're nothing too crazy. The Chukanus or whatever they evolved to are decent, but they're not a huge force. Once the tanks start rolling out, that's where a lot of people do switch to like the Greek or the French for the tanks. Um, the Koreans are actually pretty good, pretty consistent from the beginning all the way through like the global age. They're very consistent. Their archers do a ton of damage, and there's not too much that you can do on defense against them, which is interesting. But once you get the silos, that starts clearing out all 3 archers become less effective once the missile silos come out. Once a lot of these other tanks start rolling out on defense, the archers they're still good, but they do get pummeled pretty quickly. These sniper towers really do a lot of damage. A lot of these different towers really start doing a lot more damage once you get to the near the global age in that area. The Koreans you can keep, but the infantry and the archers, as you progress further in the game, become less and less viable because of the factory. So once the factory rolls out, that really does change the game. Obviously, you need oil, which is very hard to come by. So at the beginning, you're going to be still using a lot of regular troops that need food because your oil is going to be so limited. But now you have machine guns, and machine guns are kind of like the archers, but better because they spray, so they hit multiple people at the same time. And they look at their damage against defenders, 1,000. That's insane. A regular archer is probably around 100 or so. So, and these guys, do they slow them down too? Yep. It also slows them down a little bit too, I believe. Yeah, they move at half speed. And then when they're attacking you, they deal half damage. So the machine guns are super effective. The only problem with these guys is that they, actually, there's not much of a problem, but they move kind of slowly, I guess. And if they get swarmed, it's easy to take them out. So, but they only 3 troop space is not bad. So it's more than an archer and more than the little infantry. Training cost is 20. At the beginning, they're very expensive. 20 is a lot. Once you progress a little further, you up your intake on oil. That's nothing. The commandos are nasty because they can actually infiltrate bases. They can go through gates and they go straight for defensive buildings. So you could, I've often done like a 5 commando army, and then have planes, which obviously come out a little bit later, but do some planes for backup or some tanks or something else to kind of like have little meat shields to kind of distract them as the commandos go in and destroy. Because look at their DPS against defensive buildings. Now there's a commando. You're not going to start with a commando. So the other ones are probably going to be like 9,000 damage or 8,000 damage or whatever. But that's crazy. You can knock out defensive buildings, most of them, in one hit, in the bigger buildings in like 2 or 3 hits. But that's insane. This is the biggest game changer up until this point, other than the bazookas, which I haven't unlocked yet. But the heavy tank Mk2, cavalry, generals, heavy tanks, does 4,000 damage, and damage per second is 2,000. All of these troops here, you definitely want to upgrade in the university and in the library because it'll make them stronger. This guy hits anything versus the regular tank only hits defensive buildings. Oh, wow. He sent me a Caesar's Legion. Nice. Thank you. So these guys are insane. You can literally run like a 4 tank or 5 tank, plus maybe who knows what else, like tactics and stuff like that, and wipe out a whatever's before Global Age. You can definitely wipe that out with some good maneuvering. And like I said, oil does become easier and easier. So what I'm getting at is the end of the second into the third part of the whole game. The most important thing is going to be your factory units, really. The second thing that you're going to be looking at is the airstrip. Once the airstrip and the factory troops come out, they really overtake everything else. To a certain extent. The planes are super, super important. So you can get the triplane, which is kind of like a fighter plane. Great at taking out large amounts of troops. They do have low hit points, though, so you really have to kind of be careful with them, not to get shot down by the towers. And then you get the Airship Mk3, which is a bomber. Bombers are amazing. But look at their hit points. They're very low. But look at the damage, the regular damage. 24,966. Wow. And then it's lower against air defense and town centers, which makes sense. But they're slow. Later, you unlock the transport. So, like, this really changes the game. Once oil becomes part of the game, it really changes everything. Now, the troops don't go away. You know, they're still useful. You still want to use them for, like, meat shields and to kind of, like, maneuver different things. A lot of people still run tanks, especially if you're French or Greek. You still want to run tanks because they will be, like, meat shields, I guess. They'll take a lot of damage. Then you use your planes to support them. You'll use your commandos to infiltrate, and it just kind of gives you so much more variety. And then you have, let's see, the engineer I don't really use, but I know they're very useful at the beginning of the game. They hit the walls and break them down quick. Trench mortars, I haven't really found an amazing use for them, but they're nice. Field howitzers are still going to be super powerful, or the equivalent that you have. They're going to be super powerful. They need to be protected. Supply convoy is awesome. Usually try to run 1, maybe 2. They heal triple for cavalry and generals. and tanks and things like that. Things that have like a ton of HP, they heal better. Well, they're really nice, but they're defenseless, so you really have to protect them. Attack helicopter is interesting. If you're messing around and try different variations, they're really nice and fun to use. But you probably won't see a lot of people using them in World Wars because they go down pretty quick. But they are very useful. The other one is the assault vehicle, which I think, unlock if I upgrade a little bit more. And vulnerable to anti-tank guns, which is fine. But it does a ton of damage against tanks, buildings, and walls, which is huge. Destroying tanks and buildings. So it's kind of like an army tank destroyer. I mean, so this is what happens. So you usually start the game with maybe these first 4, and then eventually you start unlocking some of these, which is awesome. But now you have planes you can consider. Oops. On the top, you'll see you have a capacity of 3. I think you start with a capacity of 1, and then it increases as you upgrade. And then you have the factory. So that's why the game changes. So once you get to that level, you're going to be doing a variety of different things. You're not going to rely on your infantry as much. You're not going to rely on your archers as much. So those nations that highly, highly rely on infantry and archers are really going to start going down the list a little bit. The ones with the tanks will still remain a little bit. I would say the most, let me go over here just so you guys could look at it. But if you look at the top players in the game, and this changes. A week ago, everybody was German. Now I'm looking at the first 4 and they're Chinese. Very interesting. You won't see a lot of Romans in here. I'll scroll through here. You won't see it. There's all the Germans. You'll see some French for sure. Some French, some Koreans maybe, some Chinese. The Chinese have that extra worker, and I know one of the later Wonders of the World gives you an extra worker or 2 or something like that. So that really kind of helps you out if you're getting a little stagnant way later in the game. But you see a lot of Germans, British, Chinese, French. We haven't seen any Greeks. The Japanese really go downhill. A lot of their benefits are great at the beginning of the game, but later in the game they're not, especially if you're not using the infantry. They don't really do all that much. There's a little Greek dude there. Some Chinese, which is nice. There's British. And British might not even be for the archers at this point. The British might just be because you get an extra 10% loot on your damage, on your victories, sorry. Let's see, the Roman, British, Germans. And the Germans, mainly, there was one Japanese in there. The Germans are mainly because of their, not because of their infantry per se, but because of their rally is quicker and it lasts longer. And also because you get an extra, I think it was an extra 15%. You should request troops. Because of the 15% boost. It's either 10 or 15. I think it was 15% boost after your victories. So people that want to be very competitive are going to stick with the Romans, for the first 2/3 of the game. But later in the game, it's definitely going to be the Germans. By far the best boost because it affects everybody and it doesn't change. It's different if you have a boost for only 1 unit, or if you increase anything, it doesn't increase with you. So the Germans by far are the strongest, but they require you to play very often, and they require you to do a lot of battles, and you want to win, of course, to get that extra boost. So I can totally see that. I think their units are pretty cool. Vandals are cool. There are armed transport vehicles down here that will produce different troops. There's paratroopers. There's all sorts of different things you can do. But the oil troops definitely, I think, have a leg up over the regular infantry troops. And then the planes are essential. Every time I lose, it's because the planes do a ton of work, and then everybody else kind of does clean up. But yeah, I mean, I love that the everything evolves, and some of the nations that you think, you know what, they're not going to be as strong later in the game, they actually aren't, and the troops and the ones that you think should be a little stronger are. But it depends on your gameplay. You know, everything depends on your gameplay. If you're very casual, or if you just want to attack, or if you want to have decent economy where, you know, you're getting discounts here and there, or you're getting refunds, or things cost less. Um, the other thing I want to mention, I know this is going to be a long video only because I had a lot on my mind the other day, is whenever you change your wonders. It used to be 600 crowns, which is pretty expensive, even though they're giving us, you know, little freebies here and there. 600 is a lot. Now, if I click replace here, the game has been changed where now they only cost 300. Now, I've changed these a bunch of times, so I don't know if I'm getting a discount because I changed them a bunch of times, but this, from my recollection, this has changed for everybody. This is huge, huge, because these things are so expensive to build. And sometimes you're like, you know what? I want to change my game style and I don't want to be super offensive. Now I want to be defensive, or I want to have better economy. That's awesome. That's like mind blowing that they did this. It's great quality of life because, I mean, most of you, once you set all of these, you don't really think about it until later. And you're like, oh, wait, what are these other options that I had? And then you're like, wait a second, this actually works better with what I'm trying to do. So like I like the infantry, but other than these guys here, I don't really use the heavy tanks. And I did for a little while. I used the heavy tanks for everything. And even though I like them, sometimes you find like a different lineup of units and you're like, you know what? I'd rather use that. So one of the ones that I've been considering, even though this is such an amazing one, would you like to replace this wonder? I've been really thinking about the Statue of Liberty, because you get bonus oil per day. It's not that much. I think it's like 250 or something, but it adds up. You know, you'll easily get over 1,000 in a week, which is more than enough to do a lot of your troops there, and increases attack damage from units from airstrips. And that's one of the things I really want to focus on in the near future, is getting my airstrips leveled up and get them to start doing tons and tons of damage. That's really going to help me. The Brits, and maybe I'm just not smart, but I don't use the, what is it called? The Blitzkrieg power in combat super effectively. I use it and it helps, but I'm not like blown away by it. And maybe I'm not like smart enough to be using it the right way, but that's fine. Increase attack damage of factory units. So that's why most people get that one, is the factory unit thing, because people use the factory units like crazy. I think it's because I only have these 3 units and I'm not really using the heavy tank at all, that it doesn't matter to me. The bazookas I definitely want to unlock. This is another thing I want to focus on, is the factories. The bazookas are amazing. Then you get the armored car Mk1, and then you get the APC, which continuously deploys troops. That one is crazy. Elite infantry. Yep. So I'm thinking that once I do unlock like 3 of these, yeah, you know, definitely I want to have that boost. But it's tough. It's really tough. Because it's like, do you want to change your whole play style or not? But I love that these only cost 300. I mean, that makes so much sense, because they do change the game for you, and now you can change them twice as much. I mean, that's the way that I see it. Like if the Taj Mahal, I really like it. I used to use the which one was it? Slows down. No, I think I've always used the Taj Mahal. But if I was more defensive, I would probably use Versailles or Angkor. But I just haven't found like the right uh, base formation to use those. He left. Um, but yeah, I mean, I love that you can replace them that quickly. And they're instant, which is great, so you don't have to rebuild anything. I mean, this is the one that I've been considering. At the beginning of the game, Hanging Gardens is really, really good. So is the Stonehenge, because gold is so hard to get. I don't know. I don't want to make this video too long, but my main point for doing this video was to show you the new library, and how you have these things here to look forward to. And I have a strong suspicion that they're probably going to add more books to these too. Makes sense later on. I don't know how many people have maxed out their libraries, but it's exciting, and I'm still waiting for this. which is super exciting. If I speed up, no, I don't want to do that. I might speed it up when I have like 3 days left or something. And then I'm working on this air defense that I didn't build before. So yeah, so I still have a lot to do, and I'll be working on my generals and a few other things. But yep, they're still adding content to the game. They still have really fun events. I have no workers, so taking my time a little bit. I have a peace treaty going on, so still exciting. Yeah, if you guys want to join the alliance, we're growing slowly but surely. We have 4 people. And we'd love to have more. And I do try to play daily, and so does Big M. He plays every day. Cheyenne, I think, will probably start playing every day or every other day. And Torylicious will start playing every other day kind of thing. She says she ran out of food and gold to build stuff. And I get it. That will slow you down. But it is what it is. Super fun game. Please comment below any questions or suggestions or anything. And I'll be sure to add some more videos soon. Thank you.